UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, and the Syrian government delegation have held their first meeting on a new round of talks in Geneva. Well, the government delegation was led by Syrian ambassador to the United Nations, Bashar al-Jafari. Well, the talks came as a ceasefire brokered by the U.S. and Russia for southwest of Syria came into effect Sunday. Well, this is the seventh round of peace talks resuming in the Swiss city. And for more on the peace talks, we're joined by our correspondent Dan Williams in Geneva. Dan, there's new ceasefire in the southwest of Syria, as we understand. How much is that likely to affect the talks in Geneva?
Well, these ceasefire in southwestern Syria has been warmly welcomed here by the United Nations, who describe it as reducing tension ahead of the talks which began here this morning local time. And certainly it's been described as a step in the right direction, but it remains to be seen as to whether this is a step towards a more lasting peace, a more widespread peace throughout Syria, or, as we have seen in the past, whether this will just be a window that will at some point close with the resumption of violence and an escalation in that violence in the future. That, of course, then remains the key question. What's interesting in terms of this particular ceasefire is that it was brokered by US, Russian and Jordanian diplomats at the G20, and that therefore remains to be seen whether this will also see a escalation in US involvement in the Syrian peace process going forward. But certainly as far as this peace process is concerned, this ceasefire in part has certainly been welcomed here.
So if the US is stepping up to the plate, can we expect any substantial progress from this round of talks?
Well, there's certainly pressure on those here to come to find something tangible in order to show some signs of progress. And certainly the focus here is on finding a political solution to this peace process. Here for Staffan de Mistura, it's about focusing again the discussion on these so-called four key basket areas, and that includes a credible non-sectarian transitional government, a future constitution, fresh elections within 18 months, as well as united war on terrorism. Now, as far as both the government and the opposition groups are concerned, although they've agreed to discuss those key points, they differ widely in the focus of those points. For the Syrian government delegation, their focus is on terrorism, whereas the opposition, their focus is on a political transition. But certainly, as I say, there is pressure on the United Nations to show tangible results. There is very much a recent accusations accusing the United Nations that this peace process is a smokescreen for those involved that can talk about peace here, but then can return home and continue with a very much a different agenda. So certainly these talks that are set to run the week, there is pressure on those here to find some kind of sense of progress.